Hi everyone, today I am helping you paint these lovely loose hibiscus flowers. Stay tuned, let's talk supplies. My brush here, it's a mop brush, it's very large. I love using it because it holds so much water. So I'm just mixing up this really nice light orange paint that I have on my palette already. And we're going to start adding in our leaves. So just this C-curve shape on both sides, fill in the middle and make it a little bit wider. Now I'm rinsing my brush. I'm actually dipping into some pink paint. You can't see that from there, but that's what I'm doing. I'm going to add in another petal here, C-curve shapes, just changing up the color a little bit, adding some pointiness to the leaves there as they touch towards the center. And if you notice, what I'm doing is I dip my paintbrush in water to lighten up that petal before I painted it. Now a little bit more orange here. And we're going to make these petals here to the right a little bit stubbier because the perspective of this flower is going to look like the flower itself is shifting to the left. And so what you can see are the petals on the left completely, and the ones on the right, because we're not seeing it fully head on, look a little bit shorter, just the perspective of where we're coming from. So we'll continue just to put a little bit extra paint on there. And don't worry too much about this. It looks a little bit strange now. We've got some layers to do, and once we get those layers on, it'll make a bunch of sense, I promise. So just a little bit darker paint, just poking that color into the wet paint that's already there, just for a little extra dimension on this hibiscus flower. And again, painting with this brush is such a pleasure because it really makes this fun. Let's go ahead and add in a pink version of this hibiscus. And we're going to see even less of this flower because we're going to imagine that it's tucked behind the first flower. And because of that, we're going to put 3 petals on there. I did dip my brush into the water there before making that second one. A little bit of orange on my brush too. Just wanted to make a variation of colors. And then of course poking in some more saturated paint just to make some really cool lines for our hibiscus petals. And of course I have a large space here for the middle that we'll put in once everything is dry. You can help it out by taking a hairdryer or a heat gun and drying that up really nicely. So now it's time for some leaves, and I chose a very light aqua color here for our leaves. Again, we're doing those C-curve shapes right here, C-curve shape, fill in that center. Of course, that one was filled in pretty well. And we're just going to work our way around this composition to fill in these leaves. If you want to make it more interesting, you can take various colors of leaves if you want, if you prefer. I just chose to do the same types. A few of them will be a little bit thinner maybe, but I'm going to keep the same pigment, the same value as well. And because I wanted to just have the flowers be the focal point versus the foliage. The foliage is just the background here, it's the accent, and we want those flowers really to be our focal point here. So at this point, I encourage you guys to check in with yourself just to see how you're doing. Are you enjoying painting this? If there's any body tension, I always encourage you to just take a deep breath, take a step back, walk away, because art shouldn't be anxiety provoking, but often it does feel like that. And just allow yourself to enjoy this experience. My paper, as you can see here, is doing some buckling. I did not tape it down. That was my mistake, but I'm choosing to hold on to it and just anchor it to the table here, just so I can get my leaves in. I think it's going to be okay. So may that be a lesson to you in case the same thing happens to you as well. So I'm so glad you guys are here right now. If you are enjoying this video, if you don't mind helping me out, just give this video a like and subscribe to my channel, and then leave a comment below. Let me know what's your favorite part of this painting so far, and if you'd like to see any other flowers. I'd be happy to do other floral tutorials based on requests as well. So definitely let me know in the comments, and I appreciate it tons. We have stippled in some dark brown, as you see on the left, and look at how beautiful. Look at how beautiful that paint is spreading on its own. It just creates a lovely fuzzy look. And this little center, I've left a lot of white space, but people, I think I'm going to go ahead and fill it in just a little bit because there's a little bit more than it needs to be. So let's remove a little bit here. Sometimes it spreads more than you want it to do. And that's the thing with watercolor, it moves. Unlike other paint, you put it down and it stays exactly where it needs to be. But this one, it doesn't do that. We're defining the petals a little bit more here on the edges, just adding in some lines with this darker orange color. And that center part a lot of times just kind of blooms out from the inside. But I wanted to also make it look like there's some shadows happening here with our petals so that we're not seeing just one giant blob with sort of some definition of petals, if that makes sense. And we'll do this also with our pink one. So I'm using a number 6 round brush for this. You could use a smaller one if you want to. I love working wet on wet, making sure to add that top layer while the paint is still wet. We'll definitely do some more details when it's dry, and we'll do a layering called glazing. And that's just the fancy term for just putting another layer when your paint is dry. All right, I'm mixing up a little bit more of that turquoise aqua color. I just wanted to add in, again, wet on wet for some of these. Some of these are a little bit dry already, and so you're not going to see as much of that blending of the color. You'll see more of a harsh line or a darker outcome, and that's okay. With your petals, with your leaves and all the things, you can decide if you want to add in some line details, or maybe you're just going to prefer to leave it as it is. I think this is a lovely painting right now. If you want to keep it this way, I'm just going to remove some drips. Okay, easy peasy. I want to show you what you can do if you add some lines. Obviously, this magical moment has happened and it is dry. And you do get those weird lines there, especially on that pink one, when you use a hair dryer. But it's okay because we're going to cover it up with some line details, so it's all good. So now I'm just going to start stippling over that center with the brown. I do want to darken it up and maybe fill it in just a tad. So just adding in some little lines here that poke out here and there instead of it being a big circle. So some of these lines are extending out farther into the petals than others. And if you're looking at a hibiscus in nature, you're going to see that's how she is. It's going to give some lovely interest. Darkening up this center is not necessary, but I like it. I think it's pretty. I don't know why I'm doing the accents now. I'll go back to normal. So, anywho, this center here is pretty large, but that's okay. You can make them smaller if you want. I always say, paint how you want to paint. It's your painting. It's your art. And you do what you want. So we want to add in some more definition. And I have a little bit more of a saturated pink color here. Just going to blob on some paint. Now, don't be afraid of this. I do love the brush strokes though. I enjoy that painterly look. And so for me, I'm just going to kind of blob it on, leave some parts that don't have it, and just kind of call it a day for that one. Do the same thing on this side. Of course, using that lovely, large, juicy mop brush. It's just such a wonder to have it. Picks up so much pigment, so much water, and really a great friend if you're wanting to paint loosely. If you're wanting to paint not loosely, by all means, grab a teeny tiny brush, take all day with this, have really tight lines, which is fine, totally fine. But if you're wanting that loose look, the bigger the brush, the better. So I'm just removing some paint right now, lifting paint, taking a brush dipped in water, dabbed on a paper towel, and then lifting that color. Look at how pretty that is. It just makes it more interesting versus having, the same look on all the petals. And I did pick up some green on my brush, and now I'm going to do some line details on the leaves. Because we do have that aqua light turquoise color, I wanted to just give a nice contrast by adding in some green lines. Now, I'm not going to do lines on all of my leaves. You can if you want, but I tend to like that, kind of mix and match look where everything is just kind of random. All right, so our composition is once again dry, and now we have to do that middle part here. So I've got a dark brown color with my dagger brush, which has a nice point. The stamen, I believe. I could be wrong. I can never seem to get the name of this right. So we're arching this line, this little C-curve shape, and we're going to do some little dots here on either side and on the top of it as well. And this is that detail that you got to put in so that your hibiscus looks like how it's supposed to look. And as we are doing the other arched line on the other side, if you guys are wanting to further your watercolor journey, I invite you to check out my Patreon subscriptions. The link is in the description of this video. And through this membership, I offer bonus content to my subscribers not seen anywhere else, like full-length, exclusive tutorials, art prints, digital art files, as well as live streams and a private community. If this sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. It's a great way to support me and the art that I do. Thank you so much for being here. See you next time.